Welcome into College Football Addiction. Happy New Year. This might be uploaded right before midnight, but you're probably watching it on January 1st, either up late celebrating a win if you're a Penn State fan, or just watching it before you get ready for the other college football playoff games that we will get in the quarterfinal today on January 1st, if that's when you're watching it. Boise State, Penn State. Penn State wins by, 17? Not a super... it was a dominating win. Let's call it what it is. Boise State stayed in it. They kept fighting back. They were never blown out of this thing. It was never just an absolute laugher, but it never really felt like Penn State was out of control of the game. I don't like to do a drive-by-drive thing, but I thought Boise State moved the ball well to open the drive. I hated the call to kick it on 4th and 2. Maybe that could have helped later had they played a little bit cleaner, but I hated the call to kick it. Obviously, ball is shanked, and you're not getting any points out of that drive. But, man, in a game where you're as a 3 seed playing a lower seed, you're a double-digit dog, I think you got to be more aggressive. I think you got to go get points. They were moving the ball relatively well. They'd moved it well on that series. Go get 2 yards. You've got the best running back in the country. Go try and get it, or use him as a decoy. I don't know. I loved the Boise State touchdown where they use Genty as a decoy and 3 guys go running out to the other side with him. Use that on your 4th and 2. I don't know. I hated that call. Penn State moved the ball incredibly well, and the first touchdown to Warren, great throw and catch. I thought Aller looked good tonight. And then Allard to Amari Evans, just the rainbow pass that was one of the prettiest passes I've ever seen in my life. Just an absolute rainmaker when he threw that ball up, and it landed perfectly. At 14-0 with 3:30 to go, it felt like it might get out of hand. It didn't, though, and that's a credit to Boise State, because right after that, Genty fumbled the ball after a really nice run on Boise State's next drive, and you felt like Aller has a completion. They're down there by near the 30 of Boise State. You're thinking, this thing goes 21-0. This thing's over. That fumble by Aller gave Boise some hope. Huge play. And the teams trade punts. Genty fumbles again, but they do end up getting a touchdown to make it 14-7. You're thinking, okay, well, maybe we've got a little bit of a game here. Katron Allen had a really nice run that was called back. Boise was able to force a field goal. 17-7 at half. You're thinking, okay, well, it's not a blowout yet. And then a busted coverage makes it 17-14. Boise State scores a touchdown there. Obviously something Penn State will need to clean up for not next week, but the next time they play. Tyler Warren had an insane catch for his second touchdown in the back of the end zone, broke a Penn State record. With that, we'll continue to add to that. I would assume next week he is an absolute freak of a tight end, obviously. Couple third down conversions. Boise State's driving. They get a touchdown called back, a holding. They end up giving up an interception. Penn State, play calling, maybe a little bit of question. We'll talk about that in just a moment. But a really nice drive by Boise State after that. Kicker misses, narrowly to the right. Singleton ends up icing it. What happened after that? Pretty inconsequential. Penn State's passing game, I thought, was pretty good tonight. Allard didn't hit every single person, but man, it felt like when he has to turn it on, he absolutely turns it on, and that's a huge difference for them. I think going after Warren, I do think the touchdown early to give them the 14-0 lead to Evans was really impressive. I wondered a little bit about the secondary for Boise State. Could they keep up? And they really couldn't. They struggled at times. I do like the way the passing game looked like tonight. I like the way the running game looked. I didn't think things were called super well. If you're a Penn State fan watching this, I'd love to hear what your thoughts are. In the second half, I don't know why they weren't just continuing to get kind of exotic and run the ball well. Maybe it's to keep things off film. Maybe they kind of felt like they had the game in the bag. But, I mean, there was a 3rd and 1 that they're passing the ball. And I was just like, man, what are you doing here, right? You've got running backs that are running it at how many yards a clip? Like, go out there and get it. And so that was a little bit strange to me. Obviously, the big question coming into this game, could Penn State limit Ashton Genty? Still went over 100 yards, took a lot of carries to get there, took a ton of attempts from him. He had the really nice 26-yard run on a 3rd and 21 where it was kind of weird. Like the entire game plan, we talked with Tom Hannafin about this. The entire game plan seemed to be to limit Genty, and then they forgot about him on that 3rd and 26. That was kind of or that 3rd and 21. He gets 26 yards. Without that, I don't think he gets to the 100-yard yard mark, right? Like I think that was kind of what helped him get over. Didn't have a great average tonight. They certainly concentrated all their attention on them and said, hey, can these other guys beat us? And they couldn't. Boise State, though, fighting back, I think they were right there. And this is a tale of the same story 2 weeks in a row or 2 games in a row where teams have somewhat driven on Penn State. But when Penn State gets in the red zone, gets in the scoring area, gets in field goal range as a defense, they absolutely bow up. And obviously it's just harder to score in the red zone, harder to score when the field's more compacted anyway. But this is now back-to-back weeks back-to-back games where SMU drove the ball a few times and had pretty nice drives and couldn't come away with anything. And now you've seen the same thing from Boise State. 2 drives in the second half. Boise State had a 12-play drive and a 13-play drive. One of those, the first one resulted in an interception. The second one resulted in a missed field goal. Had the field goal even gone in, they still led by a touchdown. And then obviously, Singleton had the long run that happened right after that. Obviously, there's no way to know if that long run would happen or not, but they still ended up icing the game anyway. And it didn't feel like, if Boise makes this field goal, they're about to win or anything like that. So I do think that there is something to Penn State playing a little bit of bend, don't break. I do think when you're absolutely trying to take away, when you're playing that box and one, right, basketball reference, on Ashton Jeanty, you're going to give some stuff up. You're going to be willing to live with giving stuff up in the secondary. I thought Boise State's wide receivers were really good tonight. I thought quarterback play was pretty good from Boise State. I really liked the way that that he kind of fought and delivered accurate passes, moved in the pocket, scrambled when he needed to. I thought that was pretty good. I was pretty impressed by the way that they knew that they were going to have to go away from Jeanty, or that Jeanty was going to be the focus of the defense. I was impressed with the way that they stepped up, and they didn't finish well enough. You miss a couple of field goals, you fumble. Jeanty put the ball on the ground twice. They recovered one of them. You got to eliminate those kind of things, right? If you make your 2 field goals, then it's a 4-point game, right? If you don't have the interception down on the other side of the 50, then who knows, right? You turn the ball over as a double-digit dog. You can't miss 2 field goals and lose the turnover battle like they did, right? Now, they only lost the turnover battle 2-1. There was a late interception, a couple of interceptions late once the game had already been decided. But before the game was really decided, man, they lost the turnover battle over and over. And so I think that that's a big deal, right? Boise just not clean enough. You got to take chances as a 2-score dog, and they didn't do a good enough job finishing. Penn State's offense, I'd love to hear your thoughts on this, Penn State fans. Did you think that it was a little, obviously you have the long run that helped a lot, and you had a couple of really long passes, but from a down-to-down perspective, did it feel like it was a little bit limited? Do you feel like it was a little underwhelming? It was certainly enough to win the game. They scored 31 points. I'm not trying to poo-poo on that at all. Without that long run, kind of icing it late, which you can't take that away. I'm certainly not trying to be a hater or take that away. But if they'd have just melted the clock down and won 24-14, would you kind of say like, man, I'm going to need to see a little more offense when we go to the next round or whatever that ends up being? I want to get your thoughts there. Now, look, we might see in the game with Penn State's future opponent in it, we might see even more defense and just running the ball. So maybe I'm being a little critical there, but I'd love to know your thoughts. But overall, again, I thought Aller played well. Obviously, Warren had a great day. The running backs were really good with Allen and Singleton. So I'm nitpicking, and maybe it's less on the offense and more on the play calling. Again, I thought you should just run the ball at times just to kind of finish things off and melt the clock away. Maybe they're just trying to see some looks for future games, give some looks for future games. So it's hard to know the decisions that go into that. I thought Boise State's defense was good. In also playing kind of bend, don't break at times. They, outside of, like we said, that really long run, I thought they did a good job of holding them down. Like if you'd have told me Penn State was only going to score 24 in this game, I'd have said like, Boise State's got a chance. And if they hit 2 field goals, which I don't really put that on, I'm not giving Penn State a lot of credit for shanked field goals. If you make 2 field goals, we're looking at a 24-20 game. Anybody's ball game at that point, right? Is there a little more pressure on Penn State? Do they play things a little bit differently? And so, if you'd have told me that now Penn State did end up scoring that, icing touchdown. And so it didn't end up mattering. But if I'd have told you with 5, 6, 7 minutes left in the game, it's going to be a 4-point game or it's going to be a 10-point game or whatever, I think you'd have said, maybe the offense wasn't there. So I kind of expected Penn State to kind of run away with it a little bit more. But I will tell you that touchdown at the end to get it up over 30, certainly eased all fear. And then their defense played absolutely lights out. Once they got up by 4 or 10 and more, the defense was really, really good. And the defense was good all night. Outside of the busted coverage, I mean, you're looking at a Boise State team that scores, nearly nothing. So I thought really good from Penn State overall. What are your thoughts going forward? Well, Georgia and Notre Dame, it's hard to know what to expect there. I think the biggest question mark in the entire quarterfinal is what we see out of Gunnar Stockton. How well does he play? If he goes out there and absolutely dominates Notre Dame, then I think if you're Penn State, you're like, hopefully you do that to us too. But if he goes out there and struggles and they win, he goes out there and struggles and they lose. But what does Notre Dame look like? Obviously you'd certainly rather be in this spot where you've already won and you just get to enjoy New Year's Day if you're Penn State and see who you'll end up playing later. But, man, a lot of questions. I like the way that Penn State matches up against both these teams. I'm not telling you that I'm going to pick. I don't know who I would pick in either of the two possible matchups. I do like the way they play, though. I like the hard-nosed defense. I like the way they bow up in the red zone. I like the running game a lot. I like the way that Drew Aller's playing right now. Drew Aller versus Gunnar Stockton, without seeing tomorrow's game or today's game, if you're watching this on the first, probably going to lean Aller. Drew Aller versus Riley Leonard, I'm probably going to lean Aller, right? So quarterback play is a big deal. And Penn State's 60 minutes now from getting to the title game, right? And so they have that luxury of already having the win on the Tuesday night. They get to watch everybody else here on Wednesday. So Penn State fans, I'd love to know your thoughts. I'd love to know if you were pleased with the game. Did you go to the game? That's a fun one. If you were there, I'd love to know what the atmosphere was like, what the environment was like. How many Boise State fans were there? How crowded was it? Were there empty seats anywhere? Let's talk about that stuff down in the comments. Hey, I appreciate you guys for tuning in. We will very likely get Tom Hannafin back on from State of State podcast before the matchup with Penn State and we don't know who yet. We will likely get him back on to chat about that. So make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss anything. If there's anything you want me to ask Tom before that game, make sure you put that down in the comments. I'll be happy to relay any of that. But I appreciate you guys, Penn State fans or just college football fans in general, for tuning in, hanging out with us. We'll talk to you soon. Again, make sure you're subscribed. We appreciate everybody that's joined us, getting closer to that 19 and then 20,000 subscriber mark. Would like to hit that before our 1-year anniversary, which is middle of January. So help us get there. We appreciate you guys, as always, for hanging out. We'll talk to you soon on College Football Addiction.